Alright guys, I hope you're all doing well and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Chaos Dwarves led by Pink facing off against the Dwarves who are going to be led by Grombrindle, going under a different name now. So it's Grombrindle the player using Ungrim Iron Fist the Lord. Things get a little bit confusing around here. Now, as far as the dwarf build goes, it is going to be double cannons, and on this map they will have some efficacy for sure. Objectives 3 and 2 are very much in a straight lane with which the cannons can put some pressure on. Granted, the Chaos Dwarves could use a slope right here and put some artillery up top, and it might be a bit of an issue for the cannons to shoot back at them. We'll have to see how this unfolds. Now, this is kind of a cool custom map, certainly more of a casual one because it does have this massive map-wide buff in the middle. So, for example, if you grab this, it's going to give your entire army +2 leadership, which isn't that bad. There used to be one that gave like +8 melee attack to the entire army, which was just obscene. But like, especially for like aggressive factions, if you're like any defensive faction, and you know you're usually going to be yielding this at this point here. So yeah, tricky stuff indeed. But anyways, back to the analysis. Cannons are pretty good against Chaos Dwarves. They, in theory, can outrange the Chaos Dwarf artillery and outtrade them. They're okay against bigger targets, like let's say the Baltor's characters and or Bull Centaurs if they can shoot them, and they look super cool and sound super cool. So Dwarfs. So Norgrimlings with Ironbreakers. Yes, the Norgrimlings Ironbreakers in the middle. Not a bad infantry unit. It is very risky to bring elite units against Chaos Dwarves. They're pretty excellent at killing good quality troopers between the Baltorses and the artillery and some of the firepower they do have, but we'll see how this unfolds. It is going to be a bit of a goon squad here. So the high ground objective is going to be contested by a core of heroes. So it's going to be Giant Slayers. We got Ungrim, and we do also have Felix, I believe, and a Thane. So Gotrek, maybe he's blended in with these Giant Slayers. We'll just say he's the last Giant Slayer there, but you know, he's leading his people. Dwarfs. Just the basic warrior variant there. Going to be okay, just kind of holding the line. Now for the Chaos Dwarves, this is going to be Pink. Pink is certainly our resident Chaos Dwarf player, one of the best ones we got. There's not too many Chaos Dwarf mains. I think Pink plays him a lot in tournaments and is very good and takes wins off high-level players with them. And Professor Pone is also pretty good at Chaos Dwarves. He does play them quite a bit as well. But Jet Streak Rocket Launcher, not in the best position. So you usually can park it behind trees, but unfortunately this one is just a little bit too close. We'll see if it can shoot up and over. And Bull Centaur Runners with dual weapons have always been very good against Dwarves. Slightly vulnerable against being focus fired by missiles and battling Slayers, but they can wreck infantry pretty hard in combat. Deathstreak's 0 for 2, man. That's got to feel pretty bad. So we'll fast forward a little bit while the players get their armies in position. The cannon shooting at old Astrogoth Ironhand up here, so he does get popped in the face. And now the cannon has been moved back and it's able to shoot. So thankfully it wasn't like that all game. That would have been a little bit unfortunate. But the thing about Deathstreaks is they do a hell of a lot of damage against infantry too if they can hit them. Like they're just... Magma Cannons, I suppose, might still have some niche applications. If you know for a fact your opponent's going to be swarming with low leadership units, Magma Cannons arguably might be better. But this is why you don't bring elite units against Chaos Dwarves, because this happens. Their artillery just absolutely shreds you. And on this map, the artillery is able to hide very well. I love it. You have the honorable dwarves with their artillery out in the open, and then you have the dishonorable Chaos Dowie just sitting behind the trees, like shooting up and over. You gotta love it. But yeah, this is rough. And this is why typically you would see dwarves go very wide. It looks like there was a Hashit spell over there on the far side, but the dwarves are going to get a triple cap out of the gates, most likely. Hobo Goblin's going to be flanking here. Very, very tough for the dwarves to deal with. The dwarves do have some Slayers camped back here, which should be able to protect their cannon investments. And Pink is doing a very good job not like giving any, you know, openings to hit powerful units there. Another Death Streak shot. Those poor Norgrimlings are having a super, super bad time. Althar's Raiders pulling back. Dwarves do have the double cap here, and it looks like the Chaos Dowie are going to be villainous and just kind of cackle behind the trees and accrue as much value as they possibly can. Giant Slayers running into the tree line is a good call, but they didn't go all the way into the trees, so a bit of a blunder there from Grombrindle as the Dowie are certainly taking a massive pounding now. But Dwarves are like one of those weird factions that you can be like 5,000 value up on them, and you're like, how are they getting back in this game? How are they starting to win on points? I can't tell you how many games as the Empire have been up against Chaos Dwarves. Or excuse me, against regular dwarves, and I just like somehow still lose the game. Somehow Palpatine has returned. So 2 Slayers back here forced to defend these cannons feels pretty bad, and you can see Pink with some good micro there. Dwarf Warriors intercept the Hobo Goblins, easily going to win that fight. Althar's Raiders here do get caught up in combat by the Wolf Riders, and really, really nice usage of the Hobo Goblins here. They're being turbo disruptive, and these are not cheap units. These Rangers are relatively pricey. The cannons are returning a little bit of fire back. Dwarf Warriors holding, and Norgrimlings being an absolute raid boss of a unit. Even being on death's bed, these bad boys are fighting, despite being friendly fire. Middle point, held by the Dwarves, giving them a little bit of a leadership buff. Astrogoth going to be running in here, while the Dwarven character squad continues to just sit on this objective. Slayers hanging out in the trees, and more Longbeards are on their way up. So yeah, Grombrindle is one of those dwarf players that really likes to use elite dwarves. Like, ever since I've known him, like, I've been casting Grombrindle games since, you know, the Warhammer 2 days, and he was I believe he got to the finals of Faction Wars like at least once or twice with Dwarves, and ironically, I believe he ran into Skaven in Vampire Counts. Vampire Counts one was close. I think he just barely lost that one, but he loves elite dwarves. He's using iron breakers and hammerers and like stuff like that. And the meta for dwarves is really just like super wide with like Thoric Ironbow, right? But yeah, this is a bit of a different beast here. It's cool. This hero hammer dwarf style is actually pretty good. I've seen it being used over Thoric a couple times, and it's like on maps where you don't have good shooting and good swarming capabilities, like the hero dwarf squad is quite strong. So now we get some miners moving in. And more Dwarf Warriors going to be heading up to the point. Astragoth is there as well. And now the full force of the Dowie Tsar is going to be emerging from the tree line. The Dwarves using the dreaded face-to-foot style with the Deathstreak rocket launchers, just having to absorb those shots all day. But they should be able to maintain the capture weight here. They do, of course, have the Dwarf Warriors battling Laborers, but there are a couple Dowie Tsar units moving up, so Chaos Dwarves. And here we see the Longbeards getting pounded. Meanwhile, the character squad heading to Objective 3, going to be threatening that triple cap once again. Cannon's still in line in the back. What are they even shooting at? So it looks like they're probably going after the Bull Centaurs, which is definitely what they want to be doing, because if not, the Bull Centaur renders are just going to be eviscerating these Longbeards. It's going to be really bad. So Longbeards looping around, and Slayers, and now these Longbeards going to get just wrecked. I mean, this is just such a bad fight for them. These Hashit monsters certainly in their natural habitat, as we do see the Giant Slayers trying to engage and help, but it looks like this objective is going to be overwhelmed by the Dowie Tsar. As far as the trading goes, this point's going to be flipping. The Dwarf Hero Hammer squad was able to arrive and put some big pressure on, and now the Dwarves are just kind of flooding Slayers onto the battlefield, which isn't a bad idea. Just maybe, like, ignore the high ground objective for the Dwarves. That one's way too hard to defend, I think. And just kind of play Objective 3 and 2 here for the rest of the game. Use Slayers, push up, use your 2 cannons in a lane in which they can pretty much hit everything and live long and prosper. This character squad needs to get a little bit more involved if it can. Here we do have Slayers engaging against the old Bull Centaur renders, doing some okay damage. You can see they're going to be trying to run away from those Slayers, which is smart. Rangers on their way in, and more Slayers coming through the tree line. Slayers don't want to be fighting, they obviously don't want to be fighting against the chaff units, though. So we do see the Dowie Tsar with some Chaos Warriors here, or Chaos Dwarf Warriors. Could be a little bit scary. Now, looking at the value, we do see Pink up 43 to about 3,000. Dwarves going to be in the back, and Miners with Blasting Charges going to be hustling up here as the Bull Centaur renders run rampant on the battlefield. Cannons, what kind of value are we looking at? Only about 400 here and about 700 here. Not amazing. And 3 units of Bull Centaur renders. The Dowie Tsar also have an amazing foothold up on the high ground there, so I don't see Objective 1 flipping back easily anytime soon. And the way that, yeah, look at that. We got the Hellhammer coming down, so heavy metal. Chaos Dwarves definitely have a really, really cool aesthetic. And yeah, it was an okay hammer. Certainly softening them up for some, you know, Hobo Goblin raids on the backside, which we're going to see here. Slayers defending, trying their best. Another Deathstreak rocket launcher doing nasty damage as these Slayers are trying their best to intercept. The home point here does get taken, and the Hero Hammer squad of the Dwarves is going to make a field day of these Dwarf Warriors. It's going to be brutal. I mean, Ungrim's good AP. Felix is also bonus versus infantry AP. A lot of things are very, very good for the Dwarves in that regard. But on the backside, it's absolute chaos, and it kind of looks like it's just not going well. Those Deathstreaks are getting in there. Both cannons basically taken offline. The Slayers fighting tooth and nail against the Hobo Goblins to try and maintain that. But yeah, it sucks to lose those cannons. They were a threat for sure. But Pink with really, really good micro and good back pressure here seems to be threatening the Dwarves. But the Slayer Blobs might be able to fight on the points pretty well. Some more Dwarf Warriors on the way in for the Chaos Dwarves. It looks like it's going to be several units of those, which is good because they'll do very good against the Slayer type units. But the Hero Hammer squad's probably going to be able to methodically farm them down. But will the Dwarves be able to hold on to the back point? Slayers against Bull Centaur renders, not bad at all. But Bull Centaur renders also give the pain back as well. As we zoom in, we see the Slayers, many meeting their oaths. This is great for them. These Slayers are stoked. And one of the Bull Centaurs going down as well, dragging the Fell Beast down, the shame of their ancestors. These Chaos Dwarves must pay the iron price. Now, Collins for Grombrindle, going to be some Thunders. I do like that Colin, just like a deep set Thunder. A little bit of shooting power, not bad at all. Chaos Dwarves hustling over some Dwarf Warriors from the other side. Meanwhile, the Hero Hammer squad is just absolutely wrecking these guys. The Norgamling's Ironbreaker is still fighting tooth and nail too. And Slayers definitely don't want to engage those great weapons without the heroes. That's a mistake. They should be sitting back and let the heroes go deal with those guys. Now, the home point, are the Dwarves holding on to it? It kind of looks like the Slayers are doing a good job, pushing back the Hobos and also cutting down the Bull Centaur renders in combat. Astragoth himself getting a little bit beat up. So Dwarves are certainly still in this game, being ahead on points, and with the Thunder calling to the back and Rangers too. That could actually do some work against Astragoth if he's not careful. Uh-oh, he's marked by Altar. Could take a little bit of damage, but it looks like Pink is aware of this and is going to be microing back. Slayers have done their job, but they need to finish off these Bull Centaurs. Those Bull Centaurs doing some serious work. Looks like Longbeard's going to be saturating over there. Slayers, sense of their doom for sure. Fighting armor, Slayers it's not what they want to be doing. Grombrindle now gets his characters involved, which is going to make it a little bit more of a digestible fight. Pull the Slayers back, have them intercept the Bull Centaurs. That is how you live long and how you prosper. So cannons being uncalled, or unsummoned, uncalled. I don't know what my brain was thinking there, but on the far side, Hobgoblin's going to be flanking in. Thunder should be able to hold their own against these guys, probably, considering how beat up they are. But are there Bull Centaurs here ripping some shots into the fourth quarter as the Hobgoblin Riders do arrive? Here it comes, the big engagement of the foul Dawizar. Thunder's holding with their 80 armor and decent melee defense at 28. They are able to push those guys back. Home objective still held by the Dwarves and the legions of Slayers. And I guess the Slayer numbers are getting a little bit sparse, though. That could become an issue for the Dwarves for sure. These Slayers chasing down Bull Centaurs, and the heroes fighting hard on this point. High ground point being held by what appears to be mostly chaff, but I don't think the Dwarves are going to want to play that point. I mean, they could send some blasting charges up there. As far as value, it's getting close, 9,000, so it's only a 1,500 lead for the Chaos Dwarves. And of course, they're in a little bit of danger of their lord dying if he gets caught out. And the Slayer is still just hunting. Blasting Charge is going to be doing some big work. What Grombrindle would want to do here is put them in guard mode and shift click. And it looks like the Blasting Charges are going to be nailing their Dawizar cousins. Certainly satisfying some grudges in the process. It did still good damage, respectable. Blasting Charges don't like annihilate armor, but they're still worth doing. It's very, very strong. So more Giant Slayers being called in. I do like that, and that's going to be a really sweet Hellhammer. Super nice cast there by Pink. Grombrindle moving up with more Giant Slayers. And the home point here is now being threatened. So it looks like the Dawizar are going to take this one back. Currently, as it stands, it's not quite a triple cap situation. It's very, very close to it, but the Dwarves, the Chaos Dwarves would probably still win on a 2-cap here if they're able to flip this one back soon enough. And it looks like they are going to be able to flip that one soon enough. And now the battle does rage on here, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, am I wrong about that? Now we'll have to see. Yeah, it's going to be a really, really tight game for sure. So Dwarves still duking it out here. Giant Slayers club it away at Old Astragoth, looking at Objective 2. We do see the Dawi fighting here with their characters. They should definitely stick together. Felix needs that support. Felix is a character who's not the tankiest. I mean, he does have good melee defense, but he can still get isolated. So keeping those characters together is really where you shine. And now the Dwarves may be smelling a little bit of blood in the water. Going to call in blasting charges up to the high ground and some Rangers with great opens, which the Rangers don't seem to have been doing super well this game, and it looks like Felix Jaeger is going to be pulling back to the objective here. Bull Centaurs are on their way over, and where are these characters going to go? Are they running across the map to really contest Objective 1? Interesting. Yeah, and I guess it could work out. We'll have to see. Rangers with great weapons, nailing these units. Thunder is finally back online here. The Dwarves going to be unsummoning some Slayers, which is really important. Otherwise, they're potentially going to run out of steam. And yeah, these Bull Centaurs need to be dealt with. Those characters need to stay together. If Felix goes down, you're going to lose all that healing, and you're really going to lose the efficacy of that Hero Hammer squad, right? So blasting charges heading up to the point. Rangers throwing at the Hobo Goblins here. Certainly not what they thought they'd be throwing their big armor-piercing axes into, but you got to do what you got to do. And the blasting charge units forcing these Dwarves off the objective. So good micro pulling these Chaos Dwarf Warriors back, but it is going to be yielding the objective if you go too far back. So more Dwarf Warriors on the way up. The Hero Hammer squad has decided to stay and battle the Chaos Dwarf Warriors. I honestly thought it wasn't a bad idea to just leave them here and have them keep grinding value to open that one up for later, but, to each their own. Slayers being charged, the remnants of the Slayers, but, they're going to happily take this fight. They'll go down fulfilling their oaths. We do have 7 models left here and 30 models left here. Going to be able to probably pull down a couple Bull Centaurs before they go quietly into the night. Blasting charges, making nice contact here, but the Hobo Goblin Riders have arrived. They will struggle against the 80 armor, but overall the Miners will maintain their capture weight until the Chaos Dwarves make their way back to that point. Now in the backfield, Giant Slayers hanging in there, a couple Miners with blasting charges. Norgamlings, are those Norgamlings? No, those are Ulthar Raiders. They're going to be heading up to the point, and yes, this is exactly what you want. There's often it's a very big strategy in domination mode to get the Hero Hammer squads and just leave them on an objective somewhere. And even if you're fighting for another point, eventually, if the focal point of that power is strong enough, you're going to be able to just rip that point later on really easily. It's kind of like buttering something up for later, putting something in the oven and, coming to get it, right? Because look how they just cleave through these Chaos Dwarf Warriors, and that's pulling value back. They're within 400 points right now. So on this point, the Chaos Dwarves have made their way in. Rangers with great weapons will probably just get butchered here as we do get more Dwarves and Slayers hustling up to the point. And the Hero Hammer squad looks like it's going to be pulling back, but now Pink is simply going to be pressuring on Objective 3 really hard. Granted, the Dwarves can defend that one a little bit easier. Currently, Grombrindle is massively ahead on points, so if Grombrindle does flip a point for even a second, it could really put a ton of pressure here on these bad boys. But yeah, they're just kind of moving these Dwarf units in unsupported. I really did like that play that they were doing there. But yeah, the Chaos Dwarves are not bad at responding to mobile pressure. They do have the Bull Centaurs and the Hobgoblins, which is fast capture weight. Here, the character squad's going to be moving across the map. Meanwhile, the Chaos Dwarves doing a little bit of harrying here. Thunders could for sure pick off Astrogoth if he does push out, but it looks like he wisely pulls back. Bull Centaurs as well as the Great Opens are hustling there, and yeah, they're pumping those Dwarven and human legs. Felix, of course, a little bit faster, but not that much faster. You'd think he would be for sure, but Slayers have now piled in. Slayers against Bull Centaur Renders is going to be incredibly cost-effective if they're not microed back. You can see the Bull Centaurs getting karate kicked and chopped by these axes, so yeah, they're probably going to get worn down. But yeah, those Chaos Dwarf Warriors are stalwart. They're somewhere in between like a Longbeard and a Dwarf Warrior in general. A little bit overcosted, but you know, they try their best. So here comes Felix, here comes Ungrim, as well as the Thane, who probably deserves a name at this point. He's been doing pretty good. Yeah, but the problem is the Chaos Dwarfs can maneuver everything over, right? They can just like take all this mobility and swarm this high ground point. Yeah, I don't know. I really like the lane pushing strategy the Dwarves had kind of devolved into. I felt like it was more simplistic, easier for them to kind of overlap and protect one another, but yeah, I mean, now this one might flip. There are some angry Slayers coming up, and the Slayers are great against all the mobility, like all the Hobgoblins and, you know, those speedy Bull Centaurs with their 58 speed or 62, whatever the hell it is. Thunderers moving up, I do like that. You can kind of creep up the Thunderers and put some pressure on this point. Meanwhile, this one looks like it's potentially going to be flipping as the Hero Squad does arrive, and the Slayers force pathing their way onto the point. So they just like straight up bull rushed onto that. And this one could be flipping. It depends if Pink gets there in time. We do have a couple seconds left. A lot of Dwarves have made it onto the point. This will provide 4 capture weight. The other ones are going to be providing a little bit of capture weight as well. But I think the Dwarves, oh, are they going to get it? Oh man, really close. Pink holds on to that by pulling the Dwarf Warriors back. Very well played. That would have been a pretty colossal blunder there for sure to not do that. But Slayers have made it, and now there's going to be some hard fighting on this point. Dwarf Warriors and more Miners and Miners are on their way up to just try and Vermintide that point, basically. The Dwarves are basically just playing Vermintide here. Here in the middle, we do have the last Slayers being dragged down by Goblin Laborers. Certainly not the way they thought they would go, but you know what? It's still fulfilling a grudge against a hated foe, so shout out to those Slayers there. And Pink playing very well in the objectives. Honestly, this is really anyone's game. It's very close. I think Pink is playing the objectives slightly better than Grombrindle. Grombrindle is trading well, but I think some of the decisions as it pertains to the objective play have been a little bit tough. Slayer's still fighting it out here, but the Chaos Dwarf Warriors will trade very well into them. And the Hero Squad trying their best. Ungrim Iron Fist, his anti-large bonus will shine. Axe of Dargo, Red Ruin. Oh, look at him, 1,000 weapon strength. I mean, that's one way to one-shot Bull Centaur models if you can catch them, but obviously good players. That's why activated items are really not the best on slow characters, because typically people are going to be able to outmaneuver them at the higher level of tournament play. Dwarves now pressing here, which is a good idea. I think they have to play all 3 objectives. It's getting really close. Certainly going to be passed in points. And here we see the Dwarf Warriors still trying to fight their way onto the point. Ungrim and company doing okay. And Ekron's Miners here do get intercepted by the Hobo Goblins, but they have better stats. They have 39 melee attack, so they'll probably find a way to do okay in that particular fight. But yeah, the Dwarves might be able to actually take this one. Slayers and Ulthar's Raiders moving up. Thunders need to just sit down on their guns and just take huge pot shots here at Astrogoth Ironhand. Just, you know, sit down and throw those punches. You know, when people like say, you know, like really sit back and throw those punches. Kind of the anecdote I was trying to get that there, but yep, Astrogoth here needs to put some work in to defend this objective. The Dwarves are the Dark Lords of capture weight. They certainly are inevitable. They eventually make it to those points, and man, oh man, they can capture them. That is for sure. So Thane and Felix trying their best, fighting with the Slayers on the point. Time is running out, but this one, if it flips, it might be enough. Ulthar's Raiders going down, marked by Ulthar and Astrogoth, putting him down to about 1,500 HP. Bull Centaurs being called in. Not too many Slayers to help out here. Let's see what the Collins here in the back. Longbeard's hanging onto the back point to make sure it doesn't get ninja'd by Hobo Goblins. And the Giant Slayers are basically just looping around trying to catch the Bull Centaurs, which is not an easy catch. They're very elusive. Super close game though. 1362 to 1300 right here. Meanwhile, Ungrim Iron Fist stands alone, listening to some Godsmack. It was Godsmack that does that song, right? I always get Godsmack and Disturbed confused. Granted, they're both really good. Well, I would say Disturbed is probably better than Godsmack. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, Disturbed, that cover that Disturbed did of The Sound of Silence is so good. I think that would, like, kind of, yeah, Down with the Sickness. There's a lot of classics, right? But it looks like the Chaos Dwarves are narrowly going to hold on to this one, guys. They have now, have they passed the Dwarves yet? Man, they're going to. This is going to be super tight. Ungrim trying to fight here, but the Chaos Dwarves are, yeah, they just have more advantages in terms of positions here. And the Dwarves are just being intercepted. And I really think if they had just played that one lane, could have been a big boon for them. The cannon is called into the back, and it is going to be taking pot shots at Astrogoth, trying to finish him off, which would certainly diminish the leadership a little bit. Giant Slayers doing their thing, more Slayers hustling up. In the backfield, we do see Hobo Goblins dashing for that cannon, and the cannons are certainly hard to protect against the Chaos Dwarves. Because, like, what? Do you really want to leave a 1,000 gold unit here to defend a cannon, you know? Like, it feels bad. Like, you have, like, so much gold back here defending that cannon, which arguably doesn't even do that much against this Chaos Dwarf build, right? Slayers trying to fight here, Giant Slayers as well, but the Hobo Goblin Chaff holding in there very strong, and look at that. Man, that is such a close game. Grombrindle's got to be sweating. I mean, excuse me, they both got to be sweating bullets, I suppose. Ungrim surrounded by the Dwarf Warriors, and now we are going to be seeing it. Yeah, oh my god, it's so close. Pink is literally going to win by like 1 point if my calculation... Wait a second. Yeah, am I crazy here? Yeah, Pink's going to get it, yeah. Oh wait, no, I was reading the scores wrong. Anyways, I got too excited there. That was a good game. Very scrappy. Winnable for both sides. Despite the disastrous casualties in the beginning the Dwarves suffered, they were still able to grind. I think if the Dwarves had just played the 2 objectives, let their heroes grind there, ignore the other side, and force a more focused fight where they can support each other, the Dwarves win that game. But Pink did a really good job taking advantage of the chaos. Was able to maneuver around. Bull Centaurs did good. Deathstreak did really good. And overall, it was a scrappy match, man. That was fun. GG, well played. Hero Hammer Squad, always badass cannons. They suffered. They suffered pretty bad. GG, guys. Slayers with the hard carries for the regular Dwarves. All right, guys. See you on the other side. Take care of yourselves. And that's going to be it for today.